This man is the greatest gunslinger of all time, and you've probably never even heard of him. Willis Ching Lee wasn't just good with a pistol. He was an Olympic gold medalist and the commander of the last American battleship to sink another battleship in combat. And he did it with eyesight so poor, the Navy almost didn't let him in. His story isn't just about skill, it's about precision, defiance, and a lifelong obsession with outshooting the odds. Lee was born in 1888 in the quiet town of Natley, Kentucky. His dad was a local judge, but young Willis was more interested in shooting squirrels than studying case law. By the time he was 10, he could pick birds out of the air with a .22 rifle. Not because he was a natural, but because he was obsessive. He treated pest control like target practice. Every rat, every crow, every raccoon was just another bullseye. But his first real test came from a terrible accident. One day, he and his brother tried to make a homemade explosive using a coffee can full of black powder. When it didn't go off right away, Lee leaned over to inspect it, and it blew up in his face. He was nearly blinded, and the burns left his vision permanently damaged. From that day forward, he wore thick, round glasses that made him look more like a math teacher than a warrior. But they didn't slow him down. If anything, they sharpened his resolve. Lee was smart, stubborn, and constantly in trouble at school. Once, when a teacher kept confiscating his chewing tobacco and burning it in the furnace, Lee emptied a pouch, filled it with black powder, and left it for the teacher to throw in. The resulting explosion nearly took out the stove. And when he was sent home for not having shiny enough shoes, he returned with polished shoes, wrapped in paper bags and tied with string so they wouldn't get dusty again. That was Lee in a nutshell. Relentless, brilliant, and always one step ahead. His father saw the writing on the wall. If he didn't find a way to channel his son's energy, the kid was either going to end up in jail or blow up the town. So he pulled some strings and got him into the U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis. That's where Lee got his nickname, Ching. It started as a joke about his last name, his glasses, and his obsession with Chinese history. But Lee leaned into it. He even signed documents in Chinese characters for fun. While other midshipmen studied navigation, Lee was obsessed with marksmanship. He joined the Navy shooting team and quickly became the standout. During one competition, he took home the gold in the rifle division with a 1,000-yard bullseye. Then, just for fun, he entered the pistol event. Halfway through, his gun exploded due to a bad round. Undeterred, Lee caught a replacement pistol with his left hand and finished the competition with his non-dominant hand, and still won. The man just did not miss. But despite being the best shot in the Navy, he nearly flunked out. Why? His vision. After completing all of Annapolis and winning 2 gold medals, the Navy tried to reject him on a technicality. So Lee did what Lee always did. He found a way around it. He cheated on the eye exam, got through the door, and went on to become one of the most legendary shooters in military history. He saw early combat during the U.S. occupation of Veracruz in 1914. When his unit got pinned down by snipers, Lee calmly walked into the open, dared the enemy to shoot first, and picked them off one by one. Other sailors called it suicide. He called it work. By World War I, Lee was already considered a problem solver, someone who didn't just follow orders, but rewrote the playbook. He never saw frontline combat during the Great War, but he studied everything: gunnery, fire control, ship systems, and most importantly, accuracy at scale. After the war, Lee entered the 1920 Olympics, and he made history: 7 medals, 5 golds, 1 silver, 1 bronze, all in shooting. That record stood for 60 years, but his legacy wasn't built on medals. It was built on steel, gunpowder, and the hull of a battleship. When World War II broke out, Lee was assigned to the USS Washington, a fast battleship with 16-inch guns and a green crew. Lee retrained them all. He personally recalibrated every fire control system. He even rewrote the ship's gunnery tables after proving the manufacturer's targeting data was wrong. To prove it, he ran exercises where he fired live shells within feet of friendly ships. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly, just to show that his math checked out. He treated the Washington like a giant sniper rifle. And then came Guadalcanal. The Japanese were sending in the battleship Hiroshima to bombard Henderson Field. a key American airfield. If it was destroyed, the U.S. would lose the Pacific. Lee intercepted the task force in the dead of night. His radar crew had trained for this moment. The Japanese still relied on optics and searchlights. But Lee didn't need light. He had math. He had radar. And he had 9 guns loaded with 1,700-pound shells. In just 5 minutes, he landed 20 hits on the Kirishima, ripping through its hull like it was cardboard. He also rained down 24 more shells from his secondary guns. The Kirishima never even fired back. It was the last true battleship duel in naval history, and Lee made it look like target practice. And when the South Dakota, his sister ship, suffered electrical failure and couldn't escape, Lee lured the Japanese fleet away. He had his gunners knock out their searchlights. He fired flares to blind their optics, and then he vanished into the night, untouched. The Japanese didn't just lose the battle, they lost their advantage. From that point forward, radar-directed gunnery became the new standard. Lee's mantra? Treat every shot like it matters, because it does. He believed in accuracy before speed, precision before power, and it made him lethal. When he wasn't commanding fleets, he was fighting bureaucracy. He bullied the Navy into installing radar on every ship. He created entire training schools from scratch. He wrote manuals. He designed new targeting protocols. And he had zero patience for red tape. When the war turned into a battle of aircraft carriers and kamikazes, Lee helped reinvent anti-aircraft defense. But just as he was preparing a whole new set of strategies, he died of a sudden heart attack in 1945, days after Japan surrendered. So how do you measure a man like Willis Lee? You could count his Olympic medals, his Navy Cross, his Distinguished Service Medal, or the last enemy battleship he sank in 5 minutes flat. But maybe the best way is this. He was a man with failing eyes who saw the future before anyone else did. The Navy saw a limitation. He saw a bullseye, and he never missed.